Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. And since it's Tuesday, as you all know now, I'm on Tumblr. And someone asked a question on my video that I put out yesterday, which kind of gave a structure of what my video schedule looks like. And a lot of people asked about what times to ask questions. Now, there is no hard and fast rule because it really depends on my day. Sometimes I take the questions in the morning because my evening is really busy, or I do it in the middle of the day when I have a little break. So it kind of varies. However, the most common time frame that I'm usually looking at questions is around, if you asked it between 1 and 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the time that I'm on, that's probably the most likely time that I'm on, just to give you an overall average. But like I said, it changes just depending on my schedule. So but yeah, that's the answer to that. So since I'm on Tumblr, I've already answered some questions, some of them anonymous, some of them not. So some will be populated to my Tumblr, I don't even know what you call it, my Tumblr blog. And the others, hopefully you got some of your questions answered. And I have 3 as well as a journal topic. So thank you so much for that. And I think that was anonymous because I don't have a name on that. But first question is, hey Katie, my question is, what is a normal amount of anxiety and what is a normal reaction to it? I thought this was really great because we don't really talk about what we're aiming for when it comes to things like depression or anxiety, because it's very normal to have bouts of anxiety or depression in a regular, normal, healthy life. Things are going to happen that bring our mood down, or things that make us anxious or nervous in some way. And those are all normal human responses. However, if it's impeding on our life and we can't get things done and we can't do the things that we want to do or interact with the people we want to because of it, then it's a problem, right? Now, a normal amount of anxiety is when something stressful is happening or you're trying something new. Like, let's say you're getting ready for a big performance, you're going on stage, you have a test coming up, you're meeting new people for the first time. A normal amount of anxiety is when you just have those kind of butterflies in your stomach and you feel, extra antsy or on your toes, or you have that little bit of feeling of anxiety. And once the situation has either started and you're 5 minutes into your performance and you in the zone, it goes away, or you've met people and you're sitting down now and you kind of have already done the awkward introductions and stuff like that, then the anxiety feeling goes away. The struggle is those of us who have really bad anxiety, it's either an extreme amount of that where we have panic attacks or we can't even focus. Some of us may even say that we dissociate when we become extremely, extremely anxious. And some of us, the anxiety lasts like forever and ever, all day, every day, if you have generalized anxiety disorder. So that's kind of a normal amount, and it will just come and go a little bit here and there when things pop up, but it's not something that we even really think about or worry about because it's just not really frequent. And a normal reaction to it is honestly no big deal. If we're experiencing a normal amount of anxiety, it's usually because of something. And so we're more worried about that thing. And that's actually the worry. So we're like, oh, that test, so I need to study a little bit more. And we don't really think about the anxiety so much because it's really about something. It actually has a reason and there is kind of sort of a deadline for it, if that makes sense. Okay? Now, question number 2. Hi, Katie. I will be starting group therapy this Thursday. Yay! And I am really nervous. The group is for people with eating disorders, but I have no idea what to expect. On top of that, I'm really shy and have a hard time speaking up. Do you have any advice for me? Thank you. And I want to talk a little bit about groups because I've run some groups and I'm getting prepared to run a group in January. And group therapy can be really beneficial because it not only helps us begin talking about the things that we may feel shameful about or embarrassed, but it also gives us an extra amount of support and people who understand our experience. And it all, reminds us we're not alone in our experiences. And what to expect. So the way that groups work is if you're new, the group leader, most likely, and every group is different. So I'm just going to tell you what I would do personally and what people I've trained with have done. When you're new to the group, often they'll allow you to introduce yourself. Like, let's say it's me. They'd say, hey, Katie, it's so good to have you. Would you mind just telling the group a little bit about yourself as much as you feel comfortable? So let's have you, usually people will say, hi, my name is Katie, and, I'm here because I also struggle with an eating disorder, like if that's the group you're in, and so I'm just looking for some extra support. Nice to meet you. That's it. You don't have to say anything extra. It's just however much you're comfortable talking about. Now, they are going to encourage you to speak up in groups, and you're going to have to, for lack of a better term, learn how to communicate in the group setting. Now, it may take you a couple of sessions to feel comfortable, but after you see a couple of people speaking up and talking about their issues and the support and the way that groups work, I promise you'll feel way, way, way more comfortable. But don't worry, you're not going to be required to speak up and talk about something your first session. Usually they just have you introduce yourself as much as you feel comfortable. So I would just prepare in your mind a little introduction and know that that's just how groups work. We introduce ourselves to everybody. Then usually there's a topic that the group leaders will have come up with, or a question they have people working on, or homework that you're going over. It could be any number of those things depending on how the group is structured. And that's kind of how we go about it. It kind of just helps us all process together what we're going through. Okay? I think groups can be really great, by the way. Question number 3. Hey, Katie, I was just wondering if having a history of depression makes you any more likely to develop postpartum depression, even if you're in a good state of mind during your pregnancy. Thank you. Now, I did a video on postpartum depression, so if you have more questions about, or did I do it? I don't know if it's called postpartum depression. You can look that up on YouTube, and I have some more information on that. However, when it comes to this situation exactly, that if you have a history of depression, it makes you, I want to say, and I forget the exact number, but I think it's like 2.5 times more likely to develop postpartum depression. Now, the main reason for that is because we find there are a lot of genetic components to depression, and a lot of hormones are changing during pregnancy, which we know affects how we feel, our mood, and all of the chemicals that are going on in our brain. And because we're predisposed to have that chemical imbalance, chances are we will have postpartum depression. However, that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to. It's not 100%, like nothing's 100%. We're just more genetically predisposed. And the way that we can strike back against that and kind of nip it in the bud is if we're pregnant, even if we're feeling great, I would start talking to your therapist. I would get a referral to a psychiatrist who works with pregnant or nursing mothers, and I would just begin getting a support team together so that when this happens, you're prepared. Whether you have postpartum depression or not, at least you have a team ready for you when it's going on. Because the thing that we really struggle with postpartum depression the most is the fact that we're new mothers, and that's really stressful, and there's a lot going on. We're not sleeping a lot. There's a lot of other things flying around in our universe, right? And so it's really hard to make appointments, to get to appointments, to set up things. And all of this work in doing this ahead of time saves us from that. Now all we have to do is just have someone take us there. So all that motivation that we may be lacking because of the depression is something we can kind of nip in the bud now. So I would encourage you to set up a plan, get people in place, have a treatment team ready for you if you need them. And if not, you can call and cancel an appointment and say, you know, I'm doing okay. I'll check in with you next week. So you have something in place, because just because we're more predisposed doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it also means that we're more aware, we have more insight, and we can prepare more for the potential happenings. Am I right? Okay. So journal topic today says, instead of saying, I don't have time, try saying it's not a priority. Often that's a perfectly adequate explanation, but other times it doesn't fit as well. For example, I'm not going to edit your resume because it's not a priority. That makes more sense than I'm not going to go to the doctor because my health isn't a priority. This trick can help you sort out what you really don't have time for versus what you should make time for because it's actually a priority. And I really like this because oftentimes we spend so much time on things that shouldn't be a priority, and the things that actually are get pushed back and back and back and back, and we never end up doing them. And so checking in with ourselves to make sure that we're making what should be a priority, and not making extra time for things that maybe shouldn't be a priority right now because we have bigger fish to fry. Am I right? I thought this was really cool. So it's a really good check-in, even for myself. Like, what are we prioritizing? And what should we maybe not prioritize anymore? Something to think about. I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll be on the website, katimorton.com, and I'll also be on YouTube. So ask your questions below today's video, and I'll see you then. Bye!